Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us at the Biblical Perspective. Today, we're looking at another topic within a new series of study that we've actually started this week, and it's looking at demons and demonology. So, this week, we're actually trying to establish the question of, do demons actually exist? Is it something that's just been created by the Christian community? Are there such things as demons living and breathing amongst us on this earth? So we're going to address that topic today. So thank you for joining us, and don't forget to subscribe and like to the Biblical Perspective if you've not done so already. So you're with myself, Colleen, and with Ruth, and with Pedro, and we'll be taking this Bible study with you today. Okay, so before we go any further, we will start with a word of prayer. Let's pray. Thank you, Heavenly Father, for your ever your watch care over us as a people. Lord, thank you for your goodness towards us, and thank you for your love. Lord, I pray that you will be with us as we take this study today. I pray that you'll be with Ruth, Pedro, and myself. I pray also that you'll be with all those who are viewing this study. Lord, help us to understand more about this topic, about demons and demons within different aspects that we will be looking at during this series of study. Lord, but continue to be with us, continue to lead us and direct us in all things. I ask these things in your precious and holy name, dear Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Colleen.
So Ruth, we started a brand new series of studies looking at these like
Yes.
supernatural type topics, specifically relating to demons. So it's I'm looking forward to your questions, and I'm looking forward to this week's study. And for those of you who are of you who are joining us online, remember that this is an interactive study, and we love to hear your questions. We love for you to participate, and we love to answer all of your questions, and to also discuss some of your comments as well. So please participate, and please don't forget to put your questions in the comments section on YouTube. So over to you, Ruth.
Yes, Colleen. Demons, topics. Yeah, and it's interesting, right? Because for me, this is going to be an exciting study, I believe, because we live in a world where we think that it's just us and life and issues and problems. Some of us believe in God, some of us don't. But for the ones that do, demons may be very real, or they may not even understand what demonology is. But if
Mm,
there's a good, then there must be evil. God can't be good and evil in the same breath. Otherwise, why would there be any need for this word called demon?
mm.
So
And
we
also,
have demon. Yes.
yeah, sorry, carry on. Sorry, I thought he was going to rush into your question there because I just have a few points that
Oh
I wanted to.
no, oh no, not yet. I'm just looking at this thing called demons, because we're looking at, do demons exist? But the word demon has come from somewhere. It's not just plucked out of the air and it's just there floating around as a word. It's got to be something significant, because in every culture they have something. Maybe not the word demon, but they've got things like obia in the Jamaican vernacular, or they've got jojo in some of the African continents, and they've got other words like poltergeist. And there's a ghost that the British tend to. They've made a film on, and it's called Casper. And then you've got films like Ghostbusters, and then you've got all these entities. But given the word demons, it may just fall into that. But that's what we're going to explore today
Mm,
with Pedro.
mm.
So yeah, did you want to say something
So
before
I
I
thought
go into
that's
my
interesting because we're talking about demons, yet you're talking about ghosts, and you're kind of like delving into that area, which I think is interesting because like a lot of people will believe in like the dead, for example, and communicating with the
mm,
dead, ghosts and whatever that leads to, yet don't believe in the idea of demons. So I just think it's
mm,
interesting that there are these different belief systems, and it's important that we understand where this whole idea of demons and demonology sits within that wider narrative.
Hmm. So, Pedro, quietly sitting there contemplating all what Colleen and myself have said. You know, I've got questions for you. Always got some questions for you. And I think it's good that we do generate answers from these questions from the biblical perspective, because we're looking at two different dimensions here. We've got the 3D world, we've got the 4D world, and we know God resides in both. Okay. So, have you got anything to say before I go into my first question, Pedro?
No, I just want to greet everybody. Um, greet you, greet our audience, greet Simon and everybody else.
Thank you. So, thanks for your greetings, Pedro. Much appreciated. So, my first question to you, Pedro, is, and viewers, while I'm giving the questions, think about some of your own. Colleen's doing the chat today, and she'll be
Yes.
looking at the
And
questions in
viewers,
the comments. So, while I'm giving my question, I'm sure you must have some that we haven't got. We are not the fount of all knowledge. The Bible is, and we're taking our guidance from the Bible, which it's AKA the biblical perspective. So, Pedro, is believing in the existence of demons just something that Christianity brought into this world, or was it there before?
Um, I believe this is a very crucial question,
Okay.
and you've expressed. So thank you for that question, and you've expressed a bit of your understanding, I believe, of what demons are. But if I were to ask you
Yeah.
about what you think, very succinctly, very, very quickly, could you tell me what you think people think about demons, very quickly?
Yes.
A
So,
general idea.
okay. So, in my understanding or in my mind, the general idea of what demons are the Bible tells us clearly that there was war in heaven and Satan was cast out of heaven, and a third of the angels were cast out with him. So my understanding, and I feel that the prevailing understanding of demons is that demons are actually fallen angels. So Satan and the angels that were cast down with him from heaven to earth are demons. So these are evil angels, those angels that are going against God, that are on this earth with Satan to tempt people. These are the demons, or these are what you would define demons as to be.
Okay, so that's very deep, Colin. This is deep. I was expecting something less deep. This is very deep. Okay, okay.
Yeah, and
Um,
well, go
yes,
on. Go
yes.
on. No, I
No,
think
go ahead.
carry on.
All right. So it is quite clear that our notion and understanding of what demons are as Bible readers is definitely based on what we read from this
Mm.
Bible that we have. And it is something that we see in the pages of the Bible, in the interactions of Jesus and his disciples, basically in the Gospels, that inform our understanding of the supernatural and what demons are as Christians. However, neither Jesus nor his disciples, in spite of what we see happening in the Bible around the theme of demons or demonology, neither of them invented the word nor popularized the concept. This is something, the word demon is in use or was in use long before Jesus and his disciples walked on this earth. This is something that actually precedes the Christian era.
Mm.
And here is the part that might surprise you, but we need to pay attention to. Our understanding of demonology, our understanding of what demons are, because of what the interaction we have with the Bible in the Gospels, has not always been what demonology is in the Bible. What I'm telling you is what you see in the Gospels concerning demons, and we are very affirmative about that,
Mm.
about what they are, who they are, how they behave, and so on and so forth. Well, it's not the first understanding of what it is in the Bible. And this is something
Okay.
we need to be very, very much aware of, because it will define more the reality
Mm.
of the supernatural, the way we need to understand it even today in the 21st century.
Mm.
Okay. So so I'm just going to paraphrase what you just said. So you're trying to say post biblical so to speak, that the word demon is different to what is actually expressed in the Bible.
No, what I'm saying is what we see and what we call demon, our understanding of demonology is based on what we see, how we interact with the Bible and Jesus and his disciples in the Gospels. But what I'm saying is, it has not always been like this, even in the
Okay.
Bible. And I'm saying this is an important part in this discussion that we need to
Okay.
acknowledge, because it will shed light, more light, on what is really happening in this world.
Mm.
Okay. Because my first question was, is demons just something that Christianity brought into this world, or was it there before? So you're saying to me that it was there before.
It
Right.
not only was it there before, but it was there on a different form, in a different form than the one we see in the Gospels.
Right. And I know we're going to explore this because I'm intrigued now. You've sown a seed of curiosity in my mind. I'm sure the viewers as well. So, what does the Bible say about demons then, Pedro?
Well, the Bible says many things about demons. But I think the best way we can start with is where the Bible mentions the word demon for the first time. In
Okay.
where it mentions the word demon for the first time. And I'd like you to go to the Old Testament, what we call the Old Testament, to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 32, and read verse 17 for me, please.
They sacrificed unto devils, not to God whom they knew not, to new gods that came newly up, whom your fathers feared not. NET, New English Translation, they sacrificed to demons, not to God. To God they had not known, to new gods who had recently come along, God your ancestors had not known about. The Revised Standard Version, they sacrificed to demons which were no gods, to gods they had never known, to new gods that had come in of late, whom your fathers have never dreaded.
I
Mm.
want you to keep those three texts there for me, or this one text in three versions right there, because I want you to pay very close attention to what is written there. In the first text, you see they sacrificed unto devils. Just in opposition to that, it says not to God, and then it
Mm-hmm.
says to gods whom they knew not. The second says they sacrifice to demons, not to God, but to gods they had not known, to new gods. The third one says they sacrifice to demons, which were no gods. But then it says to gods they had never known, to new gods. What what is the word that comes back more often in these texts?
Gods.
Gods. Gods.
Yeah.
You know this word Elohim. We say is the name of God, and it it carries or conveys the idea of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. That's the same word that is used for every time you see the word God's there. I'm just throwing this in so that people may have some kind of reflection on this.
Okay.
So, what I want to tell you is, are they demons or are they gods? Because obviously, in the first text, devils is equated to gods whom they did not know and new gods. The second text, demons, is also equated to God they had not known, new gods. The third text, to demons, is also equated to gods that they had never known and new gods.
Yes, and
So
I mean the interesting,
yes, go ahead.
yeah, the interesting thing here, looking at those three different versions of it, what is being said here is that God's small g is equated to demons and devils, but when you see the large G, that is the God that stands alone and there's no other gods before him. So it looks
Okay,
it's not looking, it says that demons and devils and small g gods are synonymous with each other.
okay. Now, this is why I told you that you need to pay close attention to this text, and I spoke about this Elohim that we talk about when we talk about the name of God. And I just told you, this text is an Old Testament text, right? It's an Old Testament
Yes.
text because it's
Mm-hmm.
Deuteronomy chapter
Deuteronomy,
32,
yeah.
verse 17.
Mm-hmm.
And as an Old Testament text, the original is, as we know, the Hebrew, right? I mean, it's written in Hebrew. And every time you would see the word God there or gods, there would be no small g or big G. There would be Elohim. Whether it is for new gods, whether it is for gods they did not know, or whether it is for God with the one we put with the capital G. All of that. Now, the explanation is here. You see all three translations, and you can look this text up in most English translations. Thank you. And you will have the same rendering. Demons, devils, demons, demons. Now, here is what I want to tell you. That translation is not following the Hebrew translation for the word, but it is following the Greek translation. And in the Greek translation, which came up in the 3rd century before Christ, the word where the King James has devils is the word daemonion, which in the Net and the RSV becomes clearer as it is transliterated as demon. You have two words. When the text says they sacrifice, in the Greek, they sacrifice unto demonion. And if you read
Oh.
Matthew chapter 8, I believe, verse 31, we don't need to go there. You have a different rendering of the word demonian into the word daemon, which is closer to what you see here in the net and the RSV. So that would mean in this text, demons are not these monstrous beings that we see and we encounter in the New Testament, but they are divine beings, or at least they are perceived as divine beings. They are perceived as foreign gods, foreign in relation to God, the God of Israel. But they are all Elohim. So, what I'm trying to say here is in this text, like in the 4 places it occurs, the word demon is used in the Old Testament. It is used to talk about foreign gods, like in this text. Let me have you have another text. If you read for me Isaiah 65, verse 11, maybe that will make it clearer if I haven't been clear.
Okay, Isaiah 65:11, and it says, "But ye are they that forsake the Lord, that forgot my holy mountain, that prepare a table for that troop, and that furnish the drink offering unto that number." And the second translation, "But because the rest of you have forsaken the Lord and have forgotten his temple, and because you have prepared feasts to honor the God of fate and have offered mixed wine to the God of destiny, and ye are those forsaking," sorry, the next translation, "and ye are those forsaking Jehovah, who are forgotten my holy mountain, who are sitting in array for God a table, and who are filling for many a mixture." But, and the final translation, Revised Standard Version, but you are forsaken the Lord, who forgot my holy mountain, who set a table for fortune and fill cups of mixed wine for destiny.
Okay, look again at this text. You see, when you look at the King James, you almost don't understand what it's talking about. When you read the NLT, something is being added. And it is added because it is implied in the original text. What is being added in the NLT is you have prepared feast to honor the God of fate. And later on, mixed wine to the God of destiny. So you have 2 gods in there, fate and destiny. If you read this text in the Greek version of the Old Testament, the 2 words that you will find there for both of them is daemonian. But they are presented here as gods. Now, if you read the YLT, which is the Young Literal Translation, a translation that is closer to the original, you will see for the same part, now this God is being named. This God, the first one, is named Gad. And the second one is named Many, or Mini, however you want to pronounce it. And now in the last translation, look, they are translated differently. One is fortune, so Gad would be fortune, and Mini would be destiny. So what we see here is the word demonian or daemonian or daemon in the Greek Old Testament refers to deities, refers to gods that people are worshiping in the same way that they are worshiping God. They are not those beings, those evil beings that we encounter later on in the New Testament. Are you with me? They are not
Mm.
necessarily evil beings. Sometimes they can be less than some God, but they are always more than humans. But they are deities. Another text that will clarify this is Jeremiah 44, sorry, verse 17 and 18, please.
But we will but we will certainly do whatsoever thing goeth forth out of our mouth, our own mouth, to burn incense unto the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, as we have done, we and our fathers, our kings and our princes, in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem. For then had we plenty of victuals, and were well, and saw no evil. But since we left off to burn incense to the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, we have wanted all things, and have been consumed by the sword, by the famine.
Look, here is the very people of Israel whom we've been talking about. God has been telling them, you've been worshiping other gods. You've been worshiping gods you did not know. Your parents did not know. New gods. And the Greek calls them daemonian. Here in this text, just to make the point that these are, in the minds of people, real deities,
Mm.
divine beings that look after them. These people in verse 17 are saying to God, when we were worshiping the Queen of Heaven, now the Queen of Heaven would be either the Assyrian god Ishtar, or the Canaan goddess, the Assyrian goddess Ishtar, or the Canaan goddess Astarte or Ashtaroth, however you want to pronounce it,
Mhm.
depending on the language you're reading. They are saying when we worshipped those gods or that particular god, we were fine.
Mm.
These are gods, fertility gods, gods who provided for the Assyrians and the Canaanians. And they are saying to God, in the context of the book of Jeremiah, look, we will not worship you, because when we were worshiping these gods, we were perfectly fine. We always had plenty. But when we stopped worshiping them and we started worshiping you, then all hell, to use that expression, broke loose.
Mm.
And now we found ourselves wanting everything. We didn't have what we needed. So to make the point that those foreign gods, those other gods, those gods that are called daemonian or daemons, are divinities in the minds of people who are worshipped and care for the people. This is a different picture from the one you find in the New Testament when the same word daemon or daemonian is used. And I want you to understand that, because this is relevant, extremely relevant to what is happening even now in this world.
Okay, and that's very interesting because
Mm.
since we've read the Bible, demons have always had a negative connotation. But as you said in Jeremiah, that they were saying, since we've left off serving these gods, these deities, things have gone pear-shaped. So why is that? Which is interesting because it's as though they've changed tact. Something's I've got a tension here, and I hope you're going to clear it up because I'm sure the viewers may have some tension. Colleen, have you got any before I ask my next question? Is there any comments
Yeah,
or?
I've got a point, but there's also some comments that I wanted to look at as well. But my point that I wanted to say was that, like, although I appreciate and understand what Pedro is saying, the fact that these individuals were being worshipped, that's still a negative connotation in the respect of maybe they weren't seen, or maybe they didn't act in an evil way that we understand them to do,
Mm,
or that we see them portrayed in the media. But the fact that they were trying to attract worship to themselves and away from God, still accomplishes the overall aim of Satan and his angels. So I think the fact that they were potentially even doing good, or what seemed like good, to the individuals initially, still doesn't mean that we should view them in any other light than we understand them to actually be. So that's my
I,
point. And the
Can
comments.
I
Oh,
can I
sorry.
say something on this? Can I say something on this?
yes.
I think that I understand the point that you're making. The point I'm trying to make is in direct link with what you've just said. What I'm trying to say is your understanding of what a demon is based,
Mm,
and as you rightly
It's
stated from the
pre-knowledge.
beginning,
Yeah.
on what Revelation 12 says and what you
Mm,
see in the New Testament, right?
mm-hmm.
Now, what I'm
mm,
trying to show here is when the word demon was used for the first time in the Bible, and in the four times that it is used in the Bible, the first four times it is used in the Bible, it is not in that context.
no.
Mm,
You read it this way because of the baggage that you have.
yeah.
But for the people, look, they even go as far as telling God here, look, you're
Mm,
not God. Ishtar is God. Because Ishtar is the one, or Ashtaroth is the one looking after us. If you were God, you would be looking after. Actually, you are the forces in opposition here, because
Mm,
you bring disaster upon us. That's our idea of demons. Our
mm,
idea of demons is they bring disaster on people. Are you
mm,
with me? So
yes.
this is crucially important for us to understand, because
Yes.
it enlightens us as to what the deception is still today.
mm.
because because
Yes.
divinities, deities are looking after people. They are not seen as opposing God, or trying to compete for worship. I mean, I could say more, but let's say it's important for us to understand that in the minds of people and how the Bible presents it, it's different from what we see in the Gospels.
Mm,
Yes. Thank you for that. And I have to agree with both you and Colleen, because it's a mindset thing. Because if they're saying, as you rightly said, Pedro, that, well, you know what, God, they've given us this, they've given us that, and they've given us everything. But then we look at Deuteronomy. Was it Isaiah when they was talking about um, demons and gods and other gods our ancestors didn't know and didn't serve, but they saw value in what they were giving them.
mm,
So we're going to clear up the tension between the two, because there is a tension there from this wonderful deity giving them stuff like the fertility queen Ishtar, as to what we're going to be looking at in the New Testament, where they became this other thought process. So Pedro, when does the
Sorry,
word
Ruth.
demon? Oh,
Before you
you
go
had a
on,
you had
just a comment that I said I wanted
you did have
to
some
address
comments. Yes, you
quickly.
did. You
One
did.
of the comments from Purple Light Touch Foundation, it says, I just talked about this with a client this week. She was telling me she found a church that talks about demons. Many churches don't want to acknowledge demons. However, the Bible's talks about this. And then she has another comment that maybe we'll address at some point, Pedro. It says, demons are spirits that can live inside of us. So that's an important point, this whole idea of spirits, demons being spirits living inside of us. However, it's whenever we allow them to control us. So those are quite important points there. This whole idea about church is not really talking about demons, and this whole idea about demons being able to live inside us and control us. So those are the comments, and I'm hoping that we'll get an opportunity to address these.
Okay, you can go ahead. I will address this very point because it will allow me to cement what I have said earlier.
Okay, yeah. So, given the discourse that we had earlier, my next question actually falls in line with this. So, when does the word demon become a negative as we know it, and why? Thank you, Simon, our able media director, for putting it on the screen.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say that Ruth, there are loads of, well, I'm sure we'll address them, but there are quite a few texts in the Bible where we do see like demons like causing people to throw themselves down, or causing people to be in caves away from society, hurting themselves. And we see Jesus removing demons from people. And when the demon goes, the person is now in their right mind, being able to talk and live a normal life. So I guess that's where this whole idea of demons being negative and evil comes from.
But why? But why now, and why? This is what I'm asking. It's changed tack now. Why?
Okay, so your question is when does it become a negative thing? I think Colleen has answered this question, but I will just add something to this. If you say when does it become negative, it's because you understand that the word demon before was not something negative. In fact, we saw even the people of God worshipping demons, which are other gods, are having a very pleasant, good, satisfying experience doing that. Because these are divinities. They don't live within people. They don't control people from inside. They are worshipped as being up there, somewhere out there. This is something important we need to understand. 4 times the word demonian occurs in the in the Old Testament. It has to do with, they are equated to gods. Now, it becomes negative where we see the word occurring the most in the Bible, and that is in the New Testament. And that particularly because of the presence and ministry of Jesus. That's when this understanding that we have of demon actually takes form in the presence of Jesus and in his ministry. You were talking about something, Colleen. Let's go to Mark chapter 1 and read verses 23 to 28, please.
Okay, Mark chapter 1, 23 to 28, Revised Standard Version. And it says, and immediately there was in their synagogue a man with an unclean spirit. And he cried out, what have you to do with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God. But Jesus rebuked him, saying, be silent and come out of him. And the unclean spirit, convulsing him and crying with a loud voice, came out of him. And they were all amazed, so that they questioned among themselves, saying, what is this? A new teaching? With authority he commands even the unclean spirit, and they obey. And at once his fame spread everywhere throughout all the surrounding regions of Galilee.
I want you to follow what the text says and not appeal to what you know already. Follow what the text says. Notice that the text speaks about somebody with an unclean spirit in Mark. All right? Although, if you go to the book of Luke, which we're not going to, but if you do it later, Luke uses the word daemonian, or daemon. In Mark, the text, from the reaction of the people, is more likely to mean somebody who had a troubled mind. But it is the approach of Jesus that reveals that this is not just a mental episode. And you can see that in the reaction of the people. They were not used to this. They were not used to that sort of thing. Demons have always been demons, okay? Don't misunderstand me. Demons have always had the same nature. But it is through the presence of Jesus that their real nature is revealed. It is through the ministry of Jesus, at least in the Bible, because you won't find this in the Old Testament. What is happening here? It is through the presence and the ministry of Jesus that the true nature of what those spirits are is revealed. And in this particular episode, Jesus speaks to that person, but he seems to be speaking past that person to something or an entity within the person. And he says, come out of him. And the unclean spirit, the text doesn't say demon here, the text says the unclean spirit, which could be anything between how we understand an unclean spirit or somebody who is just mentally challenged, right? Somebody who is not fit. That unclean spirit, I'm speaking in the perception of people through how they see the situation. Somebody talking nonsense, that person is mentally challenged. That person has an unclean, an unfit spirit. We spiritualize it because of the baggage that we have and because of how we see Jesus acting here. But for these people, it may have been a completely different thing. So the spirit convulsing him, shaking him, comes out with a loud voice. It is Jesus's approach that reveals the real nature of what is happening with this man. If you read for me verse 32 of Mark 1, please.
But before we go there, because I've got this tension now, because I think it was in was it Jeremiah, when they were saying that these deities, they were giving us all of these wonderful things, and it says we saw no evil in them. So I'm looking at the one that you're talking about. This man is possessed. It's like it's entered into him, but where was that in the Jeremiah when they saw no evil?
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying it is in the presence and ministry of Jesus that the real nature of these beings are revealed. Before that, they were just fine gods. They were fine. They were always demons, but in the perception of people, they were providing. They were deities. They were supernatural beings above human beings that even care for them. But when Jesus comes, it takes a different, altogether sense. And the true nature is now revealed of what they are. That's why most of the occurrences of the word demon in the Bible is
Mhm.
in the New Testament within the ministry of Jesus.
Mm.
Right. Yeah, I just want to
Yeah.
make sure that
Yeah.
it wasn't two entities, one outside of giving the good
Mm.
stuff and then the other one that goes
Mm.
and
These
possesses
beings
them.
are always the same. They've always been the same. They've never
Right.
changed nature. But we're talking from the perception of humanity. Jesus brings a new light on them.
Mm. So basically, I think what we're trying to say is I've never thought of it this way, but it's like demons have always been there, they've always existed, and they've always existed in different ways, whether that's to pretend to be gods or to manifest in a way that people believe that they're gods, or to actually, as one of the viewers have said, to actually be inside an individual and they're manifested in the way that person behaves. But it's just that we weren't able to define what they were. We were never able to understand or define what these beings really were. But it's only when Jesus comes into the picture now that we see the true nature, that these beings, whether they're pretend to be gods or they inhibit people's body, it's only when Jesus is in the picture that we actually get to see them for who they really are.
Yeah, we're low on time, but if you can read, the point that you're just making will become more or will become clearer
Yeah.
if you read for me verse 32 and some other text that I will ask you to read, please.
Okay. And at even, when the sun did set, they brought unto him all that were diseased, and them that were possessed with devils. That evening, after sunset, many sick and demon possessed people were brought to Jesus. And evening had come. When the sun did set, they brought unto him all who were ill and who were demoniacs. Mm.
Now follow. This is after they witnessed what happened with Jesus in the synagogue. So remember, they were saying, man, what is this? We've never seen that before. What is going on here? And they realize through the presence of Jesus that there are lots of people around who might be in a difficult situation because of the supernatural, but they did not know it. So what they do is at sunset, after
Mm.
witnessing what they witnessed, they go and get everybody with all kinds of diseases and they bring them to Jesus. Notice that before this, we never have in the text, in the biblical text, anywhere where it is said somebody is possessed by demons or is demon possessed. It just doesn't appear in the Bible before that. Why? Because that understanding was not clear to them. That
Mm.
is not the same thing as saying it did not exist. Obviously, it existed, but it is in the presence of Jesus that they realize what is happening here. Now, quickly, if you can read for me Mark chapter 5, verse 15, please.
Mark 5:15, and it says, and they came to Jesus and see him that was possessed with the devil and had the legion sitting and clothed and in his right mind, and they were amazed.
Okay. Now we don't have to go through the whole experience, but you know that that's the experience you were referring to, Colleen, about this man who was possessed by demons. Now, what happens here is people had never imagined. They saw this guy being in the tombs, breaking chains, scaring people, doing all kinds of things. Nobody controlled him, but they would have never imagined that this guy was actually possessed by a legion of supernatural beings. And this is why Jesus, who knows that, this is why he asked the demon, who are you? What's your name? If you read the story. And he says, Legion. Jesus is not saying this because he wants to know. Jesus is saying this because he wants people to understand the reality that they don't know. And that reality is, while you're living your life on earth, you could be inhabited or you could house as many as 6,100 evil spirits in your body. Imagine how much damage you can do with that, because a legion at that time is about
6,000.
6,100 soldiers. And he is
Yes.
saying, Jesus is bringing this to the surface. He is bringing to the surface a layer of reality that until now people had no idea existed. Are you with me? They
Yeah.
would have
And it's in,
never imagined that. And he brings into focus, into sharp focus, that reality. Um, I know time is running,
yes, it
but
is. And I've got one more question. So
before you go to that question, clearly Jesus at the same time here, and that's the whole episode with all these pigs, um, or swines, however you call them, jumping in the sea to their death. Jesus is bringing out the fact that, listen, these beings are evil. They are evil spirits. So when we read about unclean spirit, when we read about evil spirits, it is in the light of what Jesus has already done that it is written. Are you with me? So
Yes.
another text I want you to read for me is Luke chapter 7, verse 21. Quickly, please.
okay. And in that same hour he was cured of many, sorry, in that same hour he was cured of their infirmities and plagues and evil spirits, and unto many that were blind he gave sight.
Again, what we see, people take the opportunity to come and lay before Jesus the burdens that they carry. And among those burdens are evil spirits. Jesus has brought to the surface here that you may be blind, you may be an infirm, you may have a plague, you may be lame, you may have a physical problem. Well, that problem can be a natural one, but it can also be caused by evil spirits inhabiting you. Or you can be perfectly fine. Well, you won't be perfectly fine, but you may not have any physical defect, but your mind is troubled because some evil spirits are inhabiting you. They are clearly identified as such in the presence of Jesus. You only appreciate light in darkness. And you only appreciate how dark darkness is when light comes in.
Wonderful. That is really interesting. So we've looked at it from the Old Testament and the New Testament, and something come to mind like Saul, when he had a spirit in him, and in the presence of David playing the harp, the spirit left him, and when David stopped playing, the spirit returned. So both the Old and the New Testament identified these entities as something that is not good. So you've looked at the Bible. Now, Pedro, I'm interested, right? Do these evil spirits still exist today? Or is it just something that is left in the biblical canons of of history of what we've got now? Something of the past?
When Jesus came, he brought
Mm-hmm.
to light this layer of reality that remains until today.
Okay.
Mhm.
Our world is full of demonic activities because our world is full of demons.
Mm-hmm.
Whether we see them
Or
as
not? Mm.
good providing for us, and this is the
Mhm.
point I'm making. Lots of people are worshiping and entertaining evil spirits, but they don't know it because they relate to them as good spirits. Because, and Colleen mentioned this to some extent, anything that is not sanctioned, any supernatural activity that is not sanctioned by the word, sanctioned or supported as godly by the
Mm.
word of God, is a demonic activity. It can be
Yeah.
good, it can be bad in the way it relates to us, in our perceptions.
Mhm.
But everything that is
Mhm.
not of God directly is demonic in nature. And our world is full of that. And
Mm.
sometimes we don't even realize that we are dealing with demons and we don't know it because it is so nice, it is so good, it is so natural, but it's not godly. So, what is it?
That's right.
It is still supernatural.
Yes, it is.
Pedro,
And go
go
on,
on, go
Colleen.
on. I just wanted to say quickly because we are running out of time, but there's a comment here that we might not get a chance to address today, but I'm wondering if we can pick up on this later on as we continue on this series to do with demons. And it says here, when Jesus died on the cross, we became a lawless world. Speaking in tongues and other spirits came popular. But then it goes on to say, even in the music is in his even in music history, Beyonce had I think that that's meant to say spirit that made her become popular. And I wanted to address this idea about certain stars and celebrities who have actually discussed and said, oh, that they have like a particular spirit, or who actually come out and talk about the fact that they've been done a pact with the devil, or done something to do with Satan in order for their fame and success. So the fact that one of the viewers has brought that up, I think that's an important point for us to kind of like to think about and discuss
Yeah.
and see, well, what does this mean from a biblical perspective?
I think to some extent we have answered that. You know, if I see the picture of Beyonce, I wouldn't be able to tell you who she is because I don't know her. As strange as this may seem, I don't know her, but I can perfectly relate to what the person is saying. I don't know what
Mm.
she's talking about. I haven't met Beyonce. I don't know what she's.
Neither have I.
I know she's a singer, but I don't know what she's doing. So I can't say anything about her. But it is part of what I'm saying. Anything, some things may look natural to us, but they are not. But when they are not recognized as natural, they are recognized as supernatural, yet they are not godly, they are
Mm,
definitely demon led.
mm,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, and I agree 100%. And viewers, we have to remember that it's this word, the Bible itself, that teaches what demons really are. Whether it's in Jeremiah, they're saying that, oh, we had these wonderful things from these demons, or like the demoniac, one in the same one coin, two sides of the same. But it's a three-part series, and then we have our Q&A at the end. So we're going to be discussing another two of these. So bring your questions or
Three,
comments, like three. We've got three left. So we've got Purple Light Touch throwing out some things there. So we've come to the end of our study on, do demons exist? Yes, we know they do. So I would like you to read the text that we've given, and there's more. Go into Google, type in demons in the Bible, and it will come up just to give you a bit of a more of an understanding, if not already, what we're going to be discussing in the in subsequent studies. So, viewers, thank you for joining us today. And please like, share, and subscribe. And remember, demons do exist, but make sure it's not for you and that what you have in you is a spirit of Christ. Until
But
next
just
week.
before you go,
Yes, Pedro?
um, Google won't be able to tell you that. Only Jesus is able
Yes.
to show these things for what they are. Google
No, I'm
won't
saying,
be
I'm
able to
saying,
do that.
I'm saying if you Google in from the Bible, put in demons in the Bible, it will show you all the
Okay.
chapters. Not Google. Google probably is, but anyway, we won't go into that realm. But type in demons, put in the Bible, and it will come up with all the texts that so you can see what we were discussing today. So thank you very much, and have a lovely, safe, demon-free week, and we'll see you again next week for another study with the biblical perspective. God bless you. Bye-bye.